When we think about a huge invention, our mind usually jumps to one image, right? A lone genius in a lab, a sudden flash of insight, that classic light bulb moment. But what if I told you that whole story is, well, mostly a myth? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at how progress really happens. Let's get into it. So let's start with the big one, the question that really drives everything. How does real world-changing innovation, the kind that creates whole new industries, how does it actually happen? Is it as simple as just throwing more money at R&D? Nope, not even close. The modern way of looking at this shows us it's not about one-off sparks of genius. It's so much deeper, way more complex, and honestly, a lot more interesting than that. It's actually a system. And to really wrap our heads around it, we have to completely ditch that simple light bulb image. We need a whole new perspective. For the longest time, people thought about it like a straight line. You pour money into research and development on one end, and new inventions just pop out the other. But that's just one tiny piece of the puzzle. The new way of thinking is holistic. It's about looking at the entire ecosystem where ideas are born, get nurtured, and eventually become something real. And you know what? That ecosystem has a name. I want you to start thinking of innovation less like a solo sprint and more like a team sport. And the league this sport is played in, it's called the National Innovation System. Okay, so what on earth is a National Innovation System, or an NIS? Well, put simply, it's the whole network of organizations, think companies, labs, universities, that are all busy creating and sharing new knowledge. But, and this is the key part, it also includes the institutions, basically the rules and habits that coordinate the whole show. This is a great way to picture it. You've got the players on the field, all those organizations. But then you also have the rules of the game, the deep-seated norms and structures that dictate how those players actually play together. You really can't understand the game if you only look at one and not the other. So if you remember one thing, let it be this. Innovation is fundamentally an interactive process. It is not a one-way street from a laboratory to the marketplace. It's more like a constant, dynamic conversation happening between all the parts. And this visualizes that conversation perfectly. This is called the chain-linked model. Just forget any idea of a simple, straight line. This is a messy, complicated, but beautiful web. You see that central path from an idea to the market, but just look at all those feedback loops. The market is constantly talking back to the designers. Production is giving feedback to the inventors. Everything can loop all the way back to the most basic research. Okay, let's break down this map. That central chain is path 1, the main process. Path 2 shows all those critical feedback loops we just talked about. But now look at paths 3, 4, and 5. They show how everything is constantly plugging back into the big pool of existing knowledge and new scientific research. It even shows how research itself gets a boost from new tools. And see that foundation at the bottom? That's finance. It's what powers the entire thing. The real takeaway here is that innovation isn't one single path. It's a bunch of interconnected circuits, all humming along at the same time. All right, so if innovation is a team sport, who are the star players on the field? Let's meet the core members of the system. The easiest way to think about it is like a tripod. First up, you've got your universities. They're the engines generating brand new knowledge and training up all the skilled people. Next, you have businesses. They're the ones who take that knowledge and transform it into actual products you can buy. And holding it all together, you have the government, playing the role of funder, rule setter, and market shaper. But here is the absolute most important part. No single one of these pillars can do it on its own. The real power, the real innovative strength of a country comes from the quality of the interactions between them. How well do the universities talk to businesses? How smart are the government's policies? That space in between, that's where the magic really happens. Okay, so we've met the players. Now let's talk about those rules of the game we mentioned, those invisible forces that can either supercharge a nation's ability to innovate or stop it dead in its tracks. So when we say institutions here, we're not talking about big stone buildings. We're talking about the deep-seated cultural habits, the social norms, and the formal rules that guide how everyone in the system acts. Think of it like this. They're the cultural software that runs on the innovation hardware. Let me give you a really clear example. Time horizon. How far ahead is a country willing to look? Some systems, often in Anglo-Saxon economies, are kind of defined by short-termism, this constant pressure for quick profits. Others, like Japan has been historically, really foster long-termism, which allows for patient, sustained investment in really tough breakthrough technologies. One isn't necessarily better, but that institutional setting totally changes the type of innovation that's going to succeed. And then there's trust. You might not think about it, but in a system that's all about interaction, trust is the oil in the machine. It's what allows companies to share information openly, to work together without constantly worrying about being taken advantage of, and to take the huge risks you need for huge breakthroughs. Without trust, the whole system just grinds to a halt. And finally, think about the general mindset. Is it what we call instrumental, where every player is laser-focused on their own individual goals and success? Or is there room for a communicative mindset, where the goal is mutual understanding and working together toward a common goal? A system that encourages that cooperative thinking is way, way better for the kind of long-term, complex learning that real innovation demands. So, players, feedback loops, invisible rules. We've covered a lot. But let's bring it all home. Why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Well, here's the bottom line. It matters because a nation's economic well-being, its prosperity, its progress, it is all directly tied to the health of its innovation system. A country's ability to compete on the world stage, to solve its biggest problems, and to create a better future for its people, all of it depends on how well this incredibly complex system can learn and adapt. This really just sums it all up. The specific national context, a country's culture, its laws, its collective habits, that's what creates the playing field. It sets the boundaries and defines what's even possible. It's exactly why some countries are amazing at certain industries while others struggle. It isn't random, it's the system at work. And that leaves us with one final, and I think really powerful question for you to chew on. When you look at your own country or even your own region, and you apply this way of thinking, where are the weak spots? Where are the breakdowns? Is it the connection between universities and industry? Is it a culture that's just too focused on the short term? What is the weakest link in your innovation system? This whole systems thinking approach gives us a brand new and much more powerful lens to ask these kinds of critical questions.